welcome to episode. What episode is this? This is Scry-fi talking about episode 10 of Strange New World.
That's what I thought you meant. I don't know what episode of our show this is. But
spoilers, by the way, for episode 10.
This is a review. We're going to assume you've seen it. So,
what's the name of this episode again?
That's
a good question.
I guess we should know the name of the episode.
It is, I have it right here. Hegemony.
Oh, okay. Hegemony. That's weird.
Yeah.
I don't even know what that means. It should have been Gorn to be Wild.
Gorn to be Wild.
Yeah.
That's funny. This is the episode that was kind of promised from the first episode of the season.
Yeah, right? So we've been talked about a few times over this season about how we expected they were going to do a Gorn thing. They alluded to it early on in the season, so we thought that would end up being the climactic, thing. And we were right, and it was pretty cool. It was Gorn-tastic. It was a cool invasion monster thing.
So
let's some details about
the episode starts off with they're at this this was an interesting thing to do. So they wanted to, normally in the old series they would do this because they didn't want to have to pay for sets.
Yes, right. I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah. It's weird that they built this whole set, it looks like.
Well, this could be the back lot, like the actual back lot where, they would often film Star Trek, or where I know they had to rebuild that back lot because there was a fire some years ago. It's the same place that was Marty McFly's hometown with the courtyard and all that.
Right.
I've actually been to visit it, and there was a fire there some years ago, so maybe they rebuilt parts of it. So I got the feeling that this was a built set too. And then later when we see it all messed up, then that had to at least been a set. So I don't know, but I definitely also thought the same thing. When I saw how I was like, wow, that is like it just looks like normal stuff. But then I thought, well, they did that a lot in the old Star Trek. And so, in a way, back then they did it just because they were using sets of other things being filmed that helped save a lot of money, like you said. But it basically established that there were a lot of these throwback places out there, So it did feel kind of original series to do that.
Yeah, it's kind of a neat idea. And they threw in the little car here that's going by,
I thought it would have been cool to maybe have some hover vehicles, something that looked like, okay, this is the stuff that you can clearly tell was brought by the ship, and this is the other stuff that looks modern, or old.
Yeah. It's a little weird to pick this era or something that everybody wants to do, and then you go and do it exactly, but you don't have the conveniences of the future stuff. I'm sure they do in some way. They're just hiding it.
They probably do with the stuff that matters, like medical care and stuff.
True. Oh yeah, because that's the medical place right there. And So, so we start off with Captain Battelle, and Christine Chapel talking. I guess she kind of just went with him to help out. Do they not have a doctor on her ship?
Yeah, why was she there? That's interesting. Why is she not with Enterprise?
Well, she mentioned something about going somewhere after this, so maybe she.
She's riding with them to hook up on her little thing she was accepted for, and this is just along the way.
I think that's what they were talking about.
Yeah, I really like their away jackets.
Oh yeah,
really cool.
Those are cool. I'd wear something like that.
Yeah, they should. Maybe they sell those. I don't
know. So Christine beams up, and then the captain calls and tries to tell her how to do her job.
Yeah.
Are you trying to read what's on the screen?
I just noticed it looks like the Delta, the Star Trek Delta thing was stretched out. which is unusual.
Yeah, and then the Gorn show up.
Yeah, I love this scene of the ship coming through the clouds. It's very Independence Day, looking very scary. I almost imagine the people on Cestus 3 in Arena, the original series episode that has the Gorn in it. I almost imagine that's how that invasion started. They look up and saw something like that.
That's crazy. So he's asking like, "Hey, can I go in there guns blazing?" And he's like, "No, you can't because we're Federation people and we don't let."
Well, it was weird. It's like, okay, they're humans, but they're not Federation, so we can't go. That's pretty consistent with how Federation is. They don't want to get involved.
Yeah, but could you imagine an instance in which like the Federation came up to a world and there's a little colony of Klingons and it's outside of Klingon space? So we're like, "Hey, we're gonna hang out with you," and then the Klingons would be like, "Yeah, I guess it's okay that you're on that place." Like they'd raise all kinds of
Well, the Klingons don't care about non-interference stuff and all that.
right.
Also, I mean, it's like, hey, we got this Federation. You do these things, and we do these things. It's a contract, and they chose not to be in the Federation. So, but also, you would be concerned about enemy amassing on your border because they're obviously close to Federation space.
Right.
Yeah. So.
This was pretty crazy to see a wreckage of the ship floating around, right?
Yeah. Now that means, of course, that whatever's around there is powerful enough to destroy the Enterprise too. Yeah.
And then they get the message that shows this is our space. I thought it was really weird that they cut the line so close.
And right through a star system. So does that mean that at a different time of year, that planet is inside their territory, and at other times it's not,
I know. I was thinking, like, how many days can you wait before it gets into...
Yeah. Like, it would be... I mean, if that was, 12 months, if it's like Earth, then, and it's going counterclockwise, then it looks like you've got about 2 or 3 months. But who knows with another planet. Also, so probably what happened was the Gorn just said, drew a line like on a much more scaled out thing, and where you've got thousands of star systems and they go like that. So the line just technically kind of goes through this star system at a weird place. But I can't believe they wouldn't just say, okay, well, the star is on this side, so we're going to claim the whole sector around there. It's just kind of weird.
Yeah. This is kind of cool the way they mark this. Like that looks like this planet has 4 moons.
Oh, yeah, interesting.
Moons.
But then, what does that mean?
They're talking about.
Cool. I didn't pause this before. But what does that mean? That planet in the upper right that has then little dots coming off at different angles. Yeah, that seems different than the signage of the moons and the
satellites. I mean, unnatural satellites or something. I mean, like man-made satellites or something. I don't know.
Possibly, or something else.
Yeah. Small.
And then what is the big blobby thing? Is that the wreckage?
That might be the wreckage. That might be the ship, the Gorn ship. I don't know.
That's way too big. It's bigger than unless there's just a symbol.
Right. They might just blow it up.
The more you zoom in, it stays the same size.
Right.
And then what's the thing in the lower right with the little lines around it? The planet there.
That one?
See, that one has little circles. Maybe rings or something?
Oh, yeah, rings. That's a neat idea.
Yeah, and then they've got these little gas clusters around. That's cool.
Yeah.
I like the graphics there.
Good graphics.
Yeah, now here we see the line comes real close to the planet, and then they've got this other red line that goes around the planet. So maybe they're saying, because the planet's on this side of the red line, we're going to claim the circle around the planet as well. I don't know.
Yeah.
And then the orange line must be the orbit of the moon.
Yeah, it's interesting. Well, I hope this is interesting anyway because we're recording it, but this shows only one moon, right? So the other graphic here shows 2 moons on that planet.
Oh, if that is the same planet.
Yeah.
I guess it would be probably.
If it's this planet, it's the only one with 1 moon in here, but the line's not near it.
Right. I think you're right. I think it's the 2 moons, and probably the other moon's just further out, and so it falls off of the edge of the screen. It doesn't show.
Well, it doesn't show the line here.
Well, yeah, but it could even be further out than that. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Like
maybe.
it could be like the orange circle would be so big it's just bigger than the screen.
It's got the name right here, Parnassus Beta. Maybe that means it's the second planet, which would be this.
Yeah. Alpha, beta. Yeah.
Anyway, we like all those weird details.
Yeah, that's fun.
I like seeing them in this room, by the way. It reminds me of the Next Generation stuff where they go.
Well, it's also meant to look like the briefing room of the Enterprise in TOS. Right. See these support beams that go overhead on either side of them? That room in TOS had those same shaped beams like that.
Yeah.
Real similar, you know. And the thing that's missing, though, and they had in some of the earliest, like when they first started showing Pike's ship in Discovery, they did some little shorts and stuff. And in those, I know they had the three-way computer screen on the briefing room table that faces, that's like triangular, but I don't see it there. Anyway, these are minor details.
Yeah.
Fun to think about.
They break out the new weapons.
The super weapons.
Yeah. Phasers and whatnot.
Gorn Protocol.
Yeah.
The Gorn identity.
This is where they decide to go use the rubble and all that stuff. I guess these sensors of the Gorn must be pretty bad because they're clearly using thrusters and have energy.
Well, I couldn't tell. Like, is it just that the thrusters are lit and they're not really putting out a thrust right now and it's floating forward?
It shows the thrusters like light up and do this.
Oh, you think it was
whenever they
actually?
I mean, they're using power and
maybe there's a lot of energy though around that whole thing. You know what I mean? Like still burning and crackling stuff. We know that there's life support in parts of the saucer.
Sure. This was cool looking through their like binocular things at the Gorn beam thing that's like blocking all their transmissions and stuff.
I wish we'd gotten a few more better shots of this. It was kind of hard to see things.
I know.
Everything was kind of like this. I think that's part of the mystery, you know, they're trying to maintain of the Gorn, not showing things too clearly.
They're doing like a Hitchcock kind of thing where you just kind of quickly show the monster or something and it's makes it more real.
I think so. If you have everything shown too easily, too much light, it kind of takes away the drama from it.
So now they're doing the thing where they're letting their young basically hunt.
The little death babies.
It was interesting that they said that they're acting differently here, that they're moving in packs instead of...
Yeah, there's something else going on. Maybe it was like a certain phase of reproduction that other ship was going through. They're not usually like that.
Yeah, I don't know. Or maybe it's a class system, like the low class has to do that, but the higher ups who their children won't have to do that because they're already the higher. I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah, you never know. Or maybe these are just older babies. They did look bigger. And so as they get older, they eventually start becoming more intelligent and work together more.
These were cool outfits, by the way, with their lights, shoulders, and all. We've talked about this before.
But what's new here, though, is that plating that they had, that cool metallic-looking plating. Yeah. And I'll bet you that's, you know, resistant to phasers and stuff. One would hope.
Gorn protection.
Yeah.
It's
lizard-proof armor.
Yeah. Then we jump to this part where Uhura is asking Pelia for help, and she's like, "Nah." For a minute there, I don't know what the issue is here.
I don't know. She always has a little bit of mysterious weirdness to the way she behaves. I think they do that on purpose because she's been through so much and she's all old, and so her motives are not always real clear.
I thought it was really weird this whole season. Actually, we should mention this is the last one of the season, right? That they introduced her as a character and they barely really used her.
Well, I think they're trying to keep some kind of mystery about her. Like we're going to learn more about her in the future.
Yeah, and that's fine, but they kind of just sprinkled her through every episode instead of she didn't have a good episode of her own kind of thing.
There was something going on in this episode. I can't remember it now, but there's something going on that made me think she knows something. Like maybe she's been to the future or she's talked to other people from the future. I feel like she knows something she's
They're not
telling
time
people.
travelers.
No, they're not. But over living that long, maybe she's encountered. I don't know. It might not be from time travel, but I just feel like there's stuff she knows she's not telling people.
And then we get this awesome scene.
Yeah,
where we meet Scotty.
And of course, most people, as soon as they heard the accent, would know who he was.
Oh yeah,
the guy that got
only
to play
one
him.
Scottish person in Star Trek.
I know. It would have been great if it wasn't him. You know, he's like talking like that. And you find, oh, I'm Jones or whatever. Yeah. But anyway, the guy that got to play him, he looks like Gopher in the Love Boat. But I could believe he could be a young Mr. Scott too.
Yeah, I could see that. He's funny. He's kind of quirky. I like it.
I definitely. I mean, he's obviously already showing his engineering genius and adaptability, or what do you call it? Creativity or whatever. That's cool.
Here's that line again, but they're still only showing one moon.
Oh, look at that. It also shows the Gorn sensor range. See that light dotted line?
Oh, yeah. Oh.
It must be because of a big sensor that they have on the planet or something.
Yeah. Okay, so Christine is the only one out of the entire ship.
Yeah, that's very lucky. But, you know, Kirk's been lucky too. I mean, a lot of main characters in Star Trek have been lucky. Now, what I'd like to at least imagine is that there's other pockets throughout that saucer with people who are still alive. They just didn't happen to be near a spacesuit, and they end up going down with the ship when it falls. But you couldn't get to them all. Didn't have time.
Scan it for life and all that stuff. Although thought it was strange that Spock didn't at least pull out a tricorder and try to see if maybe he could cut through.
Well, if the ship's sensors aren't picking it up, you're not gonna. I don't know. I don't think you'd be able to penetrate all that. But it would have been cool to show a few other people in other spots or something. But I would imagine that there had to be others if it was her.
Now at this point, she looks out the window and sees the Enterprise. And I'm like,
so that's lucky right there. She happens to be facing the direction of the Enterprise.
It's 1 in 360 chance, right? Even worse than that.
Because you could be several degrees off and still see the Enterprise.
Sure, but it's space. She could have been this way as well. But
I would say, think about it like a hexagon, maybe. So the 1 in 6 chance that you're.
Okay, but then 1 in 6 chance vertically as well.
Oh, yeah.
It's more than 1/36 chance. But okay.
Yeah, she got lucky.
Sure. Yeah, she got lucky that she could see that. But then this, where Spock just happens to go right past the exact window she's sitting at.
Yeah.
And he's not looking. What is he doing?
There's a lot of stuff like there's a lot of stuff like this in sci-fi in general where they kind of forget about the size of things and the vastness of things. Like we were watching something else today and I was saying, you know, and a lot of times in sci-fi, they hear that like Joe is on planet B12. And so they go to planet B12 and they just land some random place on the planet. There's Joe. Right. And it's like, it's the size of a planet. It's like, how did you know to land in Pittsburgh as opposed to like Saudi Arabia or, you know, whatever. I don't know. But so that happens a lot where they forget about the vastness of things. It would have been cool to like have some little throwaway dialogue in there, you know, expressing how like, or maybe she picks up something with a tricorder and she runs to a particular window and looks out, and then, you know, so that there had to be a little bit more of a reason for her to be. Yeah. It's a minor stuff, but
he's a light moving and runs to it or something. Yeah. But
yeah.
Anyway,
I mean, it's still a good story. These are nitpicky kinds of things, but
I thought this was a cool kind of alien-esque thing where they did several shots like that. I have another one that's like that as well. This was a cool one.
And the tail hanging down. It did feel like Alien, you know. Like, Because if he saw her,
freezes and freaks out.
Mhm.
This shot really felt like Alien 3.
The
right?
Alien 3, right?
Yep.
Because she was, and I didn't even get it at first, and then a few seconds after it happened, we were like, oh, she must be, infected, which is cool and all. That explains why she was like, you shouldn't have come, because she knew she was a goner anyway, so it wasn't working. But there's other people to save.
It's true. All these people are going to die, too.
Yeah, they're goners, too. As soon as I spit out these babies.
So this was a really cool scene where Spock is...
Yes.
And he sees the reflection of the tail moving, so he's like, uh-oh.
Yeah, Will Wheaton's show did a thing behind the scenes where they showed like the animatronics that they're using. I assumed this was all CG, but these are animatronic. The baby and the guy here, the adult. Really? It's animatronic, and it's very detailed. And they go into detail about how they did the eyes. Wow. The eyes have this cool thing because they're oval shaped instead of round. So they only turn in their socket up and down, and then there's a sub eyeball inside of that turns left and right.
Oh, wow.
So it just gives it this unusual anatomy to it that makes it look even weirder. And you don't get a lot of great shots of it, but it's really great work. I think they'll show more and more as time goes by.
Yeah.
And what a cool spacesuit too for the game.
Yeah, good.
Oh, there we go. That's a good shot.
Yeah.
I like too how it's like it is reminiscent of the old rubber mask in terms of its general kind of shape. They just streamlined it a little more, and they gave it, of course, a lot more realistic detail. And what's also cool is that, the teeth are still exposed and all that. But what also is cool is you can do Lizard Man in a lot of different ways, using real-world lizards as inspiration. And some lizards are actually cute, but they did a lizard thing that is not cute at all. It's like horrific. It's super scary.
Yeah.
So I really like that. They also look like they have no empathy at all for eating humans. Yeah.
As Pike puts it, or monsters almost, yeah. This was really cool. I like seeing it. It used its tail to grab her and fling her.
Oh, I didn't even notice that.
It had a really long tail. I didn't realize how long the tails were.
Another reason that I thought this was CG is because of all the floating around. But they got a guy in a big rubber suit and hanging from wires to do this scene. Yes. Wow. I couldn't believe they went through all that trouble to do that. But yes. Now, that's not to say there's probably not some enhancements here and there with CG and all that. But they did have a big animatronic guy in a suit hanging from wires.
This was a cool scene.
Now I have a theory about the Gorn. It's not a serious theory, but it's a cool little way to like match up canon stuff. Okay, so here's my silly little theory. Sometimes in battle, the Gorn can lose limbs, right? Like if they grab his tail, he can get away. He can lose his tail, but it'll grow back. And while they have a limb that's being regenerated, it sucks up so much of the energy from their metabolism, they move real slow. So in the attack on Cestus 3, the Gorn commander lost his tail because it was wounded.
Arena, the show.
Yeah, Arena, the original series. So the Gorn commander was in the attack on Cestus 3 before the Enterprise got there, got injured, lost his tail, and then it got him back up to the ship and all that. Maybe even from some of those little photon grenades that Kirk and them were firing over the hill. And so then, when he's on the planet there, he's without his tail, and he's moving all slow because his body's trying to regenerate slow.
What about that?
That's because he was in pain from not having no tail.
That's fine.
Makes sense at this point. I'm going with it.
There could also be different.
My headcanon.
There could also be different.
Yeah, some people have said, well, he could have been old, like a real old commander. Also, another thing is that, like, maybe even though it looked like a desert environment, Cestus 3 was kind of chilly, and in cold environments, they slow way down. That would be consistent with a cold-blooded animal. Anyway, you don't really have to match all this up, but it's fun to think about.
There's another cool shot of his
Trexplanations for these things.
Trexplanations. That's funny.
Yeah, that's cool.
That was right before he gets stabbed in the head.
Yeah.
I was thinking whenever he was fighting Spock, I was like, at least Spock is strong. He's like 3 times as strong as a human.
Yeah.
So
Vulcans are strong.
Do some stuff, but
that should have been really resistant. Just use glass in your helmet. But so yeah, that's cool. And now this scene where he's floating away like this just before he dies, that could be CG. I don't know, because he twists and turns and stuff like that, and the way he moves with his tail, that could be CG. I don't. Like I said, that some scenes in this, but that hand looks like the hand that they had, the animatronic hand that extended the fingers but still move.
That's pretty cool. Now we find out that Patel has been infected.
Yeah.
Jumps back to this, which is never good. This scene was pretty awesome.
Yeah, I liked that. That was cool.
That was a really cool looking scene. And by the way, the idea of let's adjust the debris so it like falls and hits the thing. That was pretty cool. That was a good.
It was cool. What they could have done to add to it a little bit is have some other debris going down at different times, so you see that it's kind of a thing that's happening a lot.
Yeah, they should have showed that while they were on the planet, right? Yeah.
Yeah, like debris from the ship has been falling for the last few hours. Also, you could see it in the graphic that they showed the debris, like they showed it scattered and then go to the planet, so you could kind of figure that was happening. But it would have been even cooler to show it. It would have been more easy to understand why the Gorn wouldn't even pay attention to it.
Yeah.
They also should have explained more about when Spock said, "I'm the only one who can do this," because I think it had to do with Vulcan's precision and his ability to perceive and know to place the rockets at just the right angle to make it work or something.
Yeah, but they didn't explain that, so he just seemed kind of like an a-hole. He was like, "I'm the only one that can do this. You humans can't."
Yeah.
I was like, that was a weird.
They should have had a little bit better explanation around
like,
that.
No human can do this. So I'll have to do it myself.
Yeah.
He was like, "Okay,
you humans are too incompetent.
Other races on board as well, but okay."
Yeah. I mean, they could have said there's like this radiation that's going to damage your eyes. They go, "Oh, I've got an inner eyelid." I don't know. I could have done something like that.
That would have been funny, actually. So they beam aboard. They're safe, which was pretty crazy.
Yeah.
And then this group gets ready to beam away.
This was a cool little switcheroo they pulled. And after rewinding it, I noticed the transport effect was a little different. The green.
I noticed whenever it happened, I was like, that's not the right one.
I didn't notice it. It's close enough to where if you just show it real briefly and then you show that other beaming, I didn't catch it the first time.
It was green and kind of blobby, and I was like, that's
not
the
It almost reminds me of I don't want to spoil anything in Silence of the Lambs, but there's a scene in Silence of the Lambs where you think you're seeing one thing and then something else ends up being true. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I was about to say, nobody got transported.
It has to do with a door and, where somebody is. And it's
funny.
So that was cool.
This was a cool scene. It's kind of nice after like a Picard thing and even a Cisco thing.
Yeah, he shows he really cares about. He's more personable and stuff.
And go, "You're alive," and hug. And like, oh wow, that's
it's also interesting.
Most personable captain moment.
In
a long time.
Sure. In general, though, I think he's pretty more like that than most of the other captains. And it's kind of cool because you get to see the different relative strengths and weaknesses of the different captains. He's not just a clone of Kirk or some other captain that's just been. And what that means is that he's also got things he's not as good at, which we see at the end of the episode where he kind of like, I don't know if we're there yet, but
we're almost there.
Yeah. Oh, and there is meeting Scotty.
Yeah.
Now, of course, what we're all wondering is Scotty just going to go off somewhere else and that's that? Or is he going to go, "Hey, you should be on our ship," and he's going to be like a engineering person, but not the chief engineer
under Pelia or something? Yeah. Maybe. Or Pelly.
Now, there's also another thing about Scotty, and this is one of those things that's more like fan lore. I don't, because they never said this in the episode, so in an on-screen thing. But I think people had always thought that like Scotty had something to do with the design of the Constitution class, or with he knew he was more intimately associated with the creation of the Constitution class.
Well, in the J.J. Abrams movie, he does say that he worked on those.
Right. Okay. And I think they took that because I think they said that because there's this fan lore about it. But I don't think, other than novels, which nobody really counts anymore, they don't try to keep to that. But at least on screen, they never said it. So I think it's just fan lore as far as its status. So that means that they're not really beholden to say that about this Scotty here. And I don't think they're going to, because he would have said something like, Constitution class, I got to work on this class. Rebecca thinks,
Yeah. Now, in this scene, he's looking at Pelly and like, oh, it's you. And she's like, oh, it's you. So there's going to be an interesting...
So there's something about, she said, you were in my class and I gave you failing grades even though you're really good because you didn't... And I'll bet it was stuff like, you don't have to keep within those standards. You can do this. And, she's like, no, I didn't agree with his cowboy ways.
And this weird thing, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that'll be an interesting thing if they keep him around. I thought these little ships were fun to see.
Yeah. Those are the same ones that they saw in the Nebula,
right?
I think. That little tripart looking one.
Yeah. Those are cool looking.
Uh-huh.
And then we see... now
they're putting her into stasis, right?
Yeah.
I don't know how long they can keep them in stasis. But
we'll find out.
Probably a long time, because, back in Khan's day, they were doing it for years and years. So
it's true, but you don't know, does it really stop what's going on, her infestation or whatever?
I think so. I think it would stop all biological, or they super, super slow them down.
I'm guessing Himmer didn't have this choice because power was out and all that stuff. And
I don't know. I have to look back at that. There was some reason why stasis wouldn't do it.
Yeah. And then this is like a really cool moment where...
Yeah, but he totally freaks out. He's just like, you didn't know what to do. I'd be like, get us out of here. Because obviously they have enough power to destroy the other ship.
But they stole all their people and...
I know. They got Mbinga.
Really knows and cares about.
What they should have done, it's possible out of the group of people that they captured, not everybody's going to get out of it alive. So it's not like they all have the same fate. I'm not saying that. But it might have been more suspenseful if they only had people that weren't in TOS be the ones that were captured,
Well, who all got captured? It's in that picture that
I Mbinga got captured, so did Kirk.
Right. Sam
Kirk. So we know those two, they're shown later. But the ones that the main characters that we don't know the fate of is Ortegas and La'an.
La'an's I know when La'an got taken, I was like, oh no, because
that's like the worst person you want to get taken, because she had all that bad stuff with the Gorn before.
Well, but she also knows the best way to fight against it.
Yeah, she knows stuff about the Gorn, so that's going to come in handy, I bet.
Yeah.
But I kind of hope that one of them does die, because, to be really dramatic, and you've got two main characters in there that we like, that we don't know the fate of.
But I love both of those characters.
I know, but that's why it has to happen. That's why it has to happen. You got to show that there are real losses from time to time. And then that's when Sulu comes in, or that's when
it's too soon. This is only the second season. If it happens, it'll be the beginning of the third. No. I want 7 seasons of all these awesome characters and kill them off at the end.
I do too, but I don't know. I think La'an's going down. I think she's going to do something really heroic with her knowledge of Gorn stuff and say, you guys get away, and she goes down with the ship or something, That's just my guess. That's not really a spoiler because we don't know. Yeah.
That's the worried look I have when you say that.
I know, but I bet it's going to happen. And I really think it should. I think for dramatic purposes, you got to have these climactic moments, and sometimes.
So this is the moment that you were talking about, though. After showing him hugging her, and me saying that he really cares and stuff, it does.
That's the reason for his conundrum. It's not really a command thing, but he is wasting a lot of time just going, oh.
Right. Yeah. I think Picard would have been like, "Get us out of here immediately," kind of thing, and.
No, Picard's a lot more experienced in TNG, you know. But and Kirk certainly would have been doing stuff.
Picard famously keeps the personal wall up to where it would suck. I'm not saying he's like a sociopath or anything. He would be sad about it, but he wouldn't.
Yeah. You would never get the sense that Picard was cold or callous about it at all.
Right.
But you would also know that he's a creature of duty. He would do what he needs to do.
Yeah, he would make the cold calculation in that moment, compartmentalize all that stuff. But he's a little more, you know.
And it's we'll have the slow moment where I look at the thing they gave me during the credits rolling.
Yeah.
Afterwards.
Yeah, and I think Kirk in this moment, you know, I think he'd be like, get us out of here, because he would be thinking, I'm going to get him back. Like,
he'd be starting to cook up plans of doing something, you know. He'd be taking some kind of action.
Yeah. Here, he's just Vicus is kind of freaking out a bit at the moment. So,
yeah,
you know, there's little parts.
Well, you know, it's realistic. Some big dramatic things happen. There's going to be a few seconds of like, oh shit, what do I do?
I think Janeway would just ram the ship into the other ship or whatever. I'm not leaving people behind. You know,
Janeway. I always thought Janeway made a lot of poor decisions and then just lucked out. And I feel like Kirk lucks out a lot, but I always felt like Kirk did the best thing he could do in the circumstances, and it just still required luck as well. And then he also got lucky. But I felt like Janeway oftentimes just did kind of.
There were some really cool. We don't need to talk about.
Yeah, we're veering into Voyager now. But
I do want to say that Janeway did have some really cool Captain moments, but they
she
were
did.
all over the place.
And she's a good character, and I really like a lot of things about Voyager. But there were a few writing things in Voyager I didn't.
But let's talk about this. I guess this whole season, really, and kind of this episode. Well, let's talk about this episode first. So. Like,
I want to say something funny that I said earlier to you before we started. I wasn't gonna, but I was saying like they should have told M'Benga like, "Oh, you're so good at murdering Klingons. You need to get out there and murder some Gorns. Maybe we can find you a Gorn ambassador."
He just goes around slaying all the ambassadors.
Yeah, just kills ambassadors left and
right. Ambassadors in midday. He still has the dagger.
That's like too soon. Too soon.
Well, you know, he is one of the ones that got captured. So
I know.
If you're gonna
maybe I hope he has his little juice with him.
He probably doesn't have the juice.
I don't think he does.
I don't know. If you're going up against Gorn,
he's still got fighting skills though, even without that stuff.
Well, think about it. That group that they have Lahan, who knows.
Oh, they knew enough to put on the combat armor and take the cool weapons. Maybe that's enough to make him go, "Oh, I better take this stuff with me."
And M'Benga, who is badass, and then they've got Ortegas, who can fly them the hell out of there. It's actually a pretty good group.
They've got good people. That's not even to mention, we don't know anything about the other crew of the other ship that are down there. There could be some superstars in that group too. Yeah, it's going to be but it's going to be a long wait now because they say the strikes and all that. We're going to have to wait. Still. I know. I mean, even in normal circumstances, it'd be a long wait, but I mean, it could be a long while before we get season 3 of.
The longest summer I ever spent in my life was between Next Generation's Best of Both Worlds 1 and 2.
I know. That was great. That was the greatest cliffhanger in all of Star Trek as far as I'm concerned. Mr. Worf. Fire. Dun dun dun. You're like, no. And for some reason, I mean, the solution to that, I won't say it, but the solution to it, or the reason what happens next makes total sense, but I didn't see it. I had a whole summer to think about it and I didn't see that.
Yeah, it was great. But and this one again, you're like, oh, are they going to do it and stuff like that? But it's a good cliffhanger. They didn't do a cliffhanger.
Yeah.
So
You're wondering like, what are they going to do? So it's cool. I thought it was well made.
I'm happy that it promises a third season. So
the season as a whole, like I said, it didn't really have an arc, and I don't know that it needs to. If you're trying to do an episodic thing, it was like a grab bag of really different, diverse kinds of episodes, and maybe that's cool. Maybe that's okay. There were some good ones I really liked. I like the alternate universe Kirk episode. I like with La'an. I liked the musical, and I liked the other silly one. What was it?
Crossover.
The animation crossover. But what else was there in this season?
Well, okay, so like they also had that one where they went to the world where they lost their memories. Rigel 7, I think.
Right. Yeah, that was pretty cool. That was all right.
Yeah, that was a good one. I think all of them were good for. It was weird because I was.
Oh, the one with all about Una, and the court thing and all that.
That was a good one.
Some very different ones. You didn't feel like they were another of the same, at least within this season.
Yeah.
Now, all of those episodes, we've seen elements of that in previous Trek before, but they were, as far as this season goes, just really diverse kinds of episodes. They were really picking up cues, Star Trek cues from all kinds of different.
I really felt like I kept thinking like, okay, I want this kind of episode next, and then they show me something completely different. But I was like, okay, but that was awesome.
That was still good,
Okay, now I want this kind of episode, and they show me completely different. I'll be like, okay, but that was really good.
Now I don't feel like what we got was the episode where they're just going along, charting stuff, and they come across something weird out of the blue that's not connected to anything else, like an exploration episode, and then there's just this out of left field weird stuff, and they have to confront it and deal with it. I didn't feel like that. I felt like everything was connected to something else that had already happened.
There were a few things like Spock becoming human. But
that's a happening. That's an event that happens to them. It's not them going out and exploring a strange new world that, like, oh, what is this?
True. Yeah, I mean, you didn't have a lot of the original series episodes start off with them already in it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like it starts off and people are like busy and it's captain's log. We've come across this thing in space and it's doing this.
Yeah.
Like, they don't even take the time to come up to it in the episode. You're just in it like that. And we need something like that in one of these episodes next time.
Yeah, more of a big teaser at the beginning that's just instantly something.
Something's floating in space and we detect life for a minute, but now it's gone. This mysterious, that's what we didn't get. We didn't get a mystery.
Yeah. Anything that would make it do the music from the old series that goes, You remember that?
Yeah. That's what we need. We need a mystery next season.
Something we were like, is this, surely it's not a ghost, or whatever it is, or what's going on here?
Even the Next Generation, you remember whenever they beamed down and they just saw the revolving door and they went into it? It was that casino and stuff.
Oh, something like that.
So,
I'll hand it to Next Generation. They had the most outlandish creative stuff in Next Generation. Probably. I felt like, if you look over everything else felt a lot more down to earth. Voyager was on the other side of the galaxy, but it was still just, here's some wrinkle forehead people, and they got this issue, and now we're going to run away, and but Next Generation had that kind of stuff, Casino Royale, and Now they had a few cool ones in Deep Space Nine like that. Like I love the one where Sisko's slingshotting around in time, and he gets to see his son like getting older and older. That was a great episode.
My favorite ones is, I don't want to spoil it, but where O'Brien comes back from some trip and like everybody's acting weird.
And O'Brien's like, why is everybody acting strange? He's real paranoid.
There's something wrong with him, and he's good. That was an amazing.
That was a good mystery.
And it's like a season 2 one too. It's real early. That's a really amazing one. They haven't had anything like that in these kind of.
That would be cool. Yeah, something like that. Something that feels creepy.
Yeah, some mystery episodes would be good. Some twist at the end kind of episodes would be good.
Well, I'm excited for season 3 for sure.
Yeah,
want to see what they do next. But
this is an amazing series.
Even beyond. I love it. Yeah, I saw some other things that you commented on, and I think you're loving it way more than I am. I like it a lot, but like I wouldn't have compared it to Mandalorian at all. I love Mandalorian way more. But maybe that's just because I'm really into Star Wars more lately.
But so you're talking about a post that I did on Facebook where I said I might like it.
Where you might like it more than Mandalorian? Yeah. I can't. It doesn't even come close to that for me. But
the only reason I say that is because my anticipation for each episode is just a little bit higher, and it's more like I really love The Mandalorian. Absolutely did. Obviously, I mean I've got. Obviously, I love Star Wars, but The Mandalorian had this kind of like. It was kind of based off of Western stories and stuff. And I like Western stories off, but I love sci-fi so much more. Just, I do.
Yeah, so, you know what also is that
there's more characters to love on this than there were in Mandalorian.
Right. You got more characters. I see what you're saying. You got more characters, and you've got, even though you don't know what the next Strange New Worlds is going to be about, you want to see more of them and what happens with them. So it gives you more of a connector piece to anticipate, want to see more. I could understand that. For me, just the thrill of Star Wars. They come on and they show, that droid has a leg that looks like the leg of that other thing in that stuff. Just I love it so much that that just like the fun factor for me. But both of us, for the audience sake, seeing this, both of us have, of course, been Star Wars and Star Trek fans, big on both our whole lives.
Well, the last series of Scry-fi episodes were the last season of Mandalorian. So, if you didn't see those and you've seen the third season of Mandalorian, go check out those.
At some point, we may go back and do reviews of older stuff. That'd be fun to talk about things in that. But next, we're going to be doing Ahsoka series when it comes out, right? So
August.
That'll be super fun.
I think it's whenever it comes out, so we'll be right after that.
I know. August can't be short enough.
I know.
Yeah, I'm really anticipating it.
And Ahsoka is my favorite Star Wars character of all time. So
what's really sad, though, I'm already mourning the moment after that episode's over, and I gotta wait till the next one. I want to binge it.
Yeah,
but I do think it's better that they release them.
Yeah,
over time. I think it works better for the community and stuff.
I'm already mourning the end of this season. It happened too fast. 10 episodes is not enough for a season.
I know. I want the old days. I want 22 episodes,
I get it. They're like movie quality each episode.
Yeah, maybe that's it. I don't know. But I guess we're lucky to be getting much of anything right now. They got the strikes going on and everything.
That's true.
I think I'm on the side of the writers and makers of the show, of course. There's a big issue in Hollywood with everybody wants to be in that industry. So you got lines of people outside waiting to get in. So that gives an incentive for the people in control. They can treat you however they want or they feel like. So I see why they need to have rules and standards. So hopefully that'll be resolved soon. But yeah, I think overall though, way to go. Did good. Oh, there was one other thing about the Gorn I wanted to mention on this. It connects back to TOS. So in the episode, that was the only TOS episode that had the Gorn in it, and they never really mentioned them again after that.
Right.
I think they mentioned them in Enterprise, the series, a few times. There could have been some other mentions in the other series. I don't know, but so that there's only one TOS episode, Arena, where you see the Gorn. And a lot of people, people who are like, well, what about this? How can this be consistent with canon? I think some of it gets way too nitpicky, like the tail thing and stuff like that. But I do think that if there's going to be a Star Trek series, I do want them to look back on what happened before and try to make it fit in and everything. I think that's important. And I feel like they
did
have
really well in this series.
Yeah, I think they've shown signs that they pay a lot of attention to what's going on before and fitting things in with her good and with Roger Corby and all that. You know, I think they've shown a lot of, even in the design of the sets. Obviously, they've brought them up to date, and they're not trying to make it look like it's exactly the same. But you could see the influences, the way the things are designed. So I think they're doing a good job with it overall. But there is one point where they talk about, like, well, in Arena, it looks like they never knew what Gorn were before. Everything was mysterious and all this. But it's another one of those things where it's like, okay, I'll grant, I think the writers that wrote Arena, in their minds, thought the Gorn were this new enemy that nobody knew who they were. But if you actually look what's on screen, all that happened was Cestus 3's been attacked. They go down. They don't know who did it. They pick up a ship, and they can't identify the ship at first. And in this episode, and this one that just came out, they couldn't identify the ship at first either. And this is years later, so they couldn't identify the ship. Then they're chasing the ship, and the Metrons pull them over, and Kirk's got to go down there and fight the Gorn. Now, if you already knew what a Gorn was, everybody in the room would just be going, "Oh, okay, yeah, they got to fight and all this stuff." There'd be no real reason to say that's that Gorn species that we all know. Everybody in the room here knows what that is, you know. So it works. Technically, it works. And so you could say, yes, they knew what the Gorn were. They just didn't know that was who that was until that moment.
At that time, yeah.
Yeah, so it does fit. It's a similar sort of thing with T'Pring and how they brought her in. If you actually watch the things that were said in the episode of Amok Time, it does work. But you're definitely taking the literal words and you're saying, okay, it still fits. But admittedly, the writers probably weren't thinking of it that way.
Yeah.
But
I mentioned this before. It's just like when you watch episode 4 of Star Wars now, if with all the information that they created with the prequels and the Clone Wars and the Rebels and all that stuff behind it, and Kenobi and all that, it totally changes many scenes, but it still works. Those scenes still
works.
It just it's a different feeling now. It's a different
right.
vibe, whatever.
And when you say it works, you're not trying to say, "Oh no, really? At the time they wrote it, that's what they were thinking." No, not necessarily.
Yeah. They went back and changed what he kind of meant by this, but the words still work. It just now means something else, you know.
Yeah, and I'm fine with them lawyering it, you know, that way, because what it means is that you've got 2 points in the story, point A, point B. You don't have to draw a straight, predictable line between those 2 points. You can have things that happen that you never realized happened before. And then come back to it. As long as you are careful about it, it'll work. It sometimes creates things where you got to like rethink how you pictured things, but I'm okay with them doing that. At least that shows that they are, like, for example, they haven't shown a scene where Uhura sees T'Pring.
Right.
So when Uhura says, "Oh, who's that, Mr. Spock?" and you know, that still works, you know. So
it's smart. Yeah.
It's like in episodes, in the prequel episodes of Star Wars, they never, in the Clone Wars animated series of Star Wars, they never had Anakin meet General Grievous, because in episode 3, he says, "You're taller than I imagined." So they purposely did not ever have them in the same scene in the same place throughout that series. So it's kind of like that.
Yeah. It's an interesting thing to, whenever you create a prequel, you are changing the thing that you're saying it comes before in some way, fashion.
You got to have something surprising.
Yeah. You know? But I like that stuff. I think it's pretty cool. So that's why it's one of the reasons why I love this series. But
yeah, I wasn't happy with how this whole universe of these shows with Discovery, I wasn't happy with how that started. just because, well, there's some plot-based things in particular about Discovery I didn't care for, but like it looked really obvious that what they were really doing was trying to do a reboot with the Klingon thing and all that. But then they've been working to try to form it back into a continuation rather than
those were weird Klingons, yeah.
Yeah. It's
And I'm fine with
obviously
that, yeah.
obvious that when they brought in the Mirror Universe stuff in season 2 of Discovery, they were trying to course correct.
Right.
And so I'm glad they course corrected. So that's cool.
The Mirror Universe stuff was actually first season.
I thought that was second season.
They find out where he comes from first season.
Oh, the end of first season, right? And I thought that was a good twist.
Spoilers
That explained why. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I thought that was a good twist, but I don't feel like it necessarily was what they were thinking at first. I feel like they did that to correct. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but anyway, they definitely have shifted gears in a lot of ways since then, because they realized that if you do a reboot, you kind of lose a lot of people that way. But this feels like I can imagine this fitting right in with TOS, so I think they're doing a good job.
Yeah. Well, great job. Can't wait for season 3. Obviously, it's got to come. So,
but yeah, join us for Ahsoka.
Yes. All right. Thanks for watching. Let us know. I always forget to ask this stuff and all, but let us know what you thought of the whole season. What was your favorite episode? What was your favorite episode of the whole season? Tell
us your favorite episode in the comments. My favorite episode, because they're so different, it's hard to pick because there's so many different kinds of episodes that fulfill a different itch, you know. But I think I'd have to go with the dramatic ones. This one might be it. Remind me of some of the other dramatic ones they had.
The one in the Nebula where the station was being sabotaged and they were, what's her name was going kind of crazy. Uhura was going a little nuts, and she was. Oh
yeah. The microorganisms that were doing. No, I think. Oh, you know what? I think what my favorite one was the La'an alternate universe with Kirk.
Really?
Yeah, that was fun. It was a lot of fun. It was dramatic. It was interesting. Had some interesting stuff about Khan, and you get to learn a lot about Kirk and why he never had a family and stuff. And yeah, I just really liked that a lot.
I never thought I'd say this, but I think my favorite of the season was the musical. And I'm basing that.
If you go the funny route, I could see that.
I'm basing all of that off of, and go watch our episode on the musical if you didn't watch it, because we talk about why I feel this way. But the entire episode, I was smiling, like just loving every moment of it. And
they did a good job.
Yeah, not only was the music good, but the music was purposeful. Like you said, during our episode, you were like, they use the music and actually move the story and the character.
Right. That's something that might make me consider that as my, if not favorite, second favorite, is the fact that they had real important character moments take place during it. That's what made it great. And the music, I said before, I can't imagine myself just listening to the music by itself, but it really was well-made music and well-performed music. So yeah, I could totally see a person picking that.
Since that episode, I have listened to some of the music again and stuff, and it starts like you start getting it in your head a little bit more, especially the All Systems one.
Yeah, there were at least 2 or 3 songs that I thought were listenable to again. Just overall, not like but yeah, I could totally see you picking that one. There's also something about that episode I forgot to mention in that episode that I wanted to draw attention to, is that technically there still has never been a Star Trek musical episode. And the reason is because if you think about what a musical is, a musical, as opposed to a movie with music in it. So a musical is like Grease, right? So Grease, whenever he's talking about how cool his car is, systematic, automatic. He starts singing about the thing. The characters don't think they're singing. They're just having a conversation. We're metaphorically seeing it as a song to get the emotion behind it or whatever. But in universe, the characters are not singing. So if that's what a musical is, there was an in-universe reason that they're singing, and they knew they were singing. And so that makes it just like other songs that were in universe, like when Vic Fontaine sings, and when Riker plays his trumpet, or whatever.
That means there's never been a Buffy musical either.
Right.
Because they all were like, why are we singing?
They had a reason in universe to be singing, and they knew they were singing. So technically, those are not musicals. But nobody cares. Nobody really cares. But it's a technical point that I think is actually true.
That's interesting, though. Huh. It's funny.
All right.
Well, we'll be back for Ahsoka, and let us know what you think.
All right.